So welcome everyone to today's webcast, Dispelling the Myths about Microsoft Project Online and Project Server. And really we're going to look at the 6 big misconceptions that could be limiting the value you're getting from your Microsoft PPM solution. My name is Ben Chamberlain. I'm the Chief Product and Marketing Officer here at UMT360, and I want to thank everyone for taking time to join us today. Now, one of the reasons we wanted to do this webcast is, as a Gold Microsoft PPM partner, we spend a lot of time working with PMOs and project management professionals to help them optimize and extend the value they're getting from their existing Microsoft Project Server or Project Online deployment, or even working with PMOs to deploy the Microsoft PPM platform as their first PPM offering. And during the sort of sales processes, what's kind of amazed me over the last few years is often the popular misconceptions that exist in terms of the Microsoft PPM capabilities. So during that process, we spend a lot of time really working with organizations to first dispel these myths, but more so, even going beyond dispelling these myths, actually showing why they actually are a competitive advantage for the Microsoft PPM platform. So during today's webcast, we're going to look at some of these popular misconceptions that we hear from organizations time in and time out as we start to work with them. Now, before we jump into today's session, there is a moderator, so please ask questions throughout and they will get answered. We will pause at the end of today's session as well for a Q&A. Now, when we look at these myths, we're going to sort of debunk them through slides and the occasional demo snippet so you can see the Microsoft PPM solution in action. So let's jump in. So when you think of myths, you think of tales about the moon being made out of cheese, supernatural stories, or some sort of legendary creature like the Loch Ness Monster. But there are also many modern myths. These myths, also known as urban legends, often involve well-known brands or famous people and can have significant detrimental impact. I think one of the best examples of this is Bubble Yum bubblegum. Now try and say that quickly. Bubble Yum bubblegum that came into a sensation in the mid-1970s. I think in the first 15 months that it hit the streets, it sold 300 million packets of Bubble Yum, which is obviously impressive. Now, if you remember Bubble Yum, it had great elasticity in terms of when you blew the bubble. So many kids started blowing big bubbles and they would explode, and fragments of the Bubble Yum would be splattered across their face, almost resembling a spider web. Now, there were some kids in, I believe, either New York or Chicago area that were impressed by this elasticity and needed to explain how this could be. Said, look, there must be spider eggs, or even this Bubble Yum must have some kind of spider silk in it. Now, this myth started to propagate around the country and quickly spread to the point where the company that launched the product started to notice a significant dip in sales. And rather than sitting back and saying, this is obviously complete rubbish, they had to deal with it and ended up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, or at least tens of thousands of dollars, on full page ads in local newspapers to debunk the myth that, of course, Bubble Yum bubblegum did not include spider's eggs or spider's silk. So, we've got to be careful, because that is a classic example of how a couple of kids started a myth that spread around the country about a product and impacted that product. So, why do myths start to take hold, and what makes them so powerful? Myths are typically generated by common human emotions and reactions to things we just don't understand. They're a way to help us feel better about our lack of understanding, but make no mistake, they can also be cynically deployed as a powerful way for some folks to influence others. And I think it's fair to say, even though we don't think of ourselves as so much smarter and rational than our early or in fact we do think of ourselves as more rational and smarter than our early ancestors, who really cowered in caves when the sky crackled with lightning, as a few bubblegum chewing kids proved, no one is immune to falling for the occasional myth, even in today's modern world. So we're going to have a few polls in today's session. And the first one is, what myth would you like to believe is actually true? And the options you have is, do you believe the Earth is flat, or do you want to believe the Earth is flat? The moon is made out of cheese. Elvis is still alive. Bigfoot lives about 30 miles from UMT360's headquarters. We're in the Pacific Northwest, close to Seattle. And Nessie swims still in Loch Ness. So give a few seconds more to answer that. And then we'll jump into the 6 myths around Microsoft Project. So, Earth is flat, moon's made of cheese, Elvis is still alive, Bigfoot lives near Seattle, or Nessie swims in a lake in Scotland, Loch Ness to be precise. So, let's close the polls. Well, yeah, I think I'll go with that. I've been in Seattle for the last 10 years and still haven't seen Bigfoot, so that's definitely not true. Nessie, I believe I saw Nessie once when I was in Scotland, and Elvis I think we see quite often. So let's jump in to the heart of today's conversation. So as I said, there's a number of popular misconceptions around whether or not Microsoft Project, that's Project Server, and now Project Online, has full end-to-end PPM capabilities. Now that kind of blows me away for a number of reasons. One, probably because Microsoft Project is one of the best known project program and portfolio management solutions on the market. It came into existence in 1985 and has continued to deliver innovation from that point. So this diagram here really traces the last sort of 13 years or so of steady progress in terms of when Project Central hit the market in 2000, and then releasing Project Server 2003 with strong consistency and integration with Microsoft Office, to starting to integrate Project Server with SharePoint in 2007, and then really releasing a full end-to-end project and portfolio management offering in 2010, and we'll talk more about that. And innovation hasn't stopped there. The advent of SAS and Microsoft Project Online as a cloud-based PPM solution, and Microsoft continues to pick up the pace now, as you would expect with SAS-based solutions, and we're releasing more and more rapid innovation over the last few years. So again, why is it that when we speak to so many customers, there are those false perceptions out there about the Microsoft PPM platform? It could well be because it's been around for so long that these perceptions have really started to gather. It could be also based on ignorance. Maybe people never used it, or simply are using the latest version in the same way they used its predecessors. Some, I think, quite honestly, based on the belief that Microsoft Project is nothing more than a very robust scheduling engine. Others, are based on negative experiences with earlier versions, or maybe deployments that didn't go as well as they could have done, which any PPM tool is prone to. But many are also propagated by other PPM providers or PPM vendors that need these myths to be out there in the marketplace when competing effectively with the Microsoft PPM platform. So we're going to take a look at 6 myths. Are these the only myths? No, I think there are probably more. These are 6 ones that we chose for today, and maybe come up more than the others. So we're going to look at these 6 myths. Every project must start with a schedule. It lacks the PPM governance capabilities of other tools. It lacks top-down portfolio management, portfolio analysis capabilities. There's little to no reporting in the platform. There aren't prepackaged solutions, and it's difficult and expensive to configure to meet our unique processes or other industry processes. And Microsoft doesn't even have a SAS-based solution. So we're going to address each of these. And as said earlier, not just going to debunk these myths, we're actually going to start to talk about why these myths themselves are actually competitive advantages for the Microsoft PPM platform. So let's jump in with another poll, and then we'll jump in with myth 1. So which version of Microsoft Project are you using? So let's say a real version here of Project Server or Project Online, and the questions or the answers you have are: I'm currently using Microsoft Project Online or Project Server 2013. I'm still using Project Server 2010. I'm on an even earlier version, 2007 or earlier, which I know many people are. I'm using another PPM tool, but actually considering changing, and maybe Microsoft Project is one of the options. Or, I'm just using another PPM tool at this time. So another 5 or 10 seconds. Okay, let's close the polls. So we have 31% that are on Project Online or Project Server 2013. Obviously, Project Server 2016 is soon to be released. So a good healthy portion on the latest and greatest to a degree, assuming that you're on Project Online. Another 26% Project Server 2010. 22% are really on legacy versions now of the Microsoft PPM platform. And 10% using PPM tool but considering Microsoft Project, and 10% that are using another PPM tool. And maybe we'll be open to considering Microsoft Project's PPM platform after today's presentation. So let's jump back to the slides. And like I said, we're going to just use slides to debunk some of these myths, and the odd demo snippet for some of them too. So myth 1, every project must start with a schedule. So where does this myth stem from? I think really it goes back to what I said earlier. First and foremost, Microsoft Project, whenever you say Microsoft Project, you think of the scheduling engine, Project Standard, Project Professional, so the desktop scheduling client is the most used scheduling tool or project management tool on the market. Plus 20 million users around the world. So many people, especially project management professionals, are very familiar with the scheduling capabilities. Now, another reason that this myth is propagated is because the earlier versions of the web-based companion to the desktop scheduling tool, so Project Professional, so the first web-based solution that Microsoft released to consolidate schedules was in 2000, called Project Central. And then the earlier versions of Project Server, as they rebranded to Project Server 2002 and 2003, all it really did was aggregate schedules and provide better ways for teams to collaborate across projects. But everything was predicated on the schedule. A project started by either creating a simple or complex schedule, and then publishing it into a web-based environment for better team collaboration. So it wasn't until the release of Project Server 2007 where you could actually initiate a project, fill out a simple project request form without the need to have an accompanying schedule. Although this doesn't necessarily align completely to this myth, there's also an additional myth that Microsoft Project, because it is the scheduling tool of choice of many project management professionals, is too complex for less experienced project managers that aren't project managers by as a sort of a full-time occupation. We call these more accidental project managers that just find themselves managing projects. So I kind of threw that in here to this myth too. So let's look at maybe debunking or dispelling this myth. Now, the truth is that Microsoft, as it started to evolve from Project Server 2007 to 2010 and the latter versions, recognize that the schedule is a very important part of a project, but it is nevertheless just one component of a project. When you think about the entire project life cycle, from business case development all the way through to post-project implementation, lessons learned, benefits realization, other things, there's many other elements that we want to capture. So with Project Server 2010, 2013, 2016, and of course Project Online, you get to choose when to display the project schedule based on the governance processes that you configure based on the process of your organization. So you can decide to start with a schedule. You can introduce the schedule based off a template at different stages in that project's life. This screenshot here, for example, shows the web-based schedule within, in this case, Project Online, but also shows the ability through what these are project detail pages to capture other salient information about the project as it progresses through its life, whether it's descriptive information about the project, financial information, other ways of prioritizing and assessing a project, ability to look at the strategic contribution or impact a project will have on the business drivers or strategy of your organization. So again, you don't need to start with the schedule anymore. You start by gathering the right information at the right time for a project, and at a certain point, that will be the schedule. Certainly when we start to build out a robust schedule, start to look at moving away from generic role assignments to a project and assigning named individuals to tasks on that project, of course, you're going to light up and bring through the schedule. Now this goes back to that kind of other part that I tapped on to this myth, that Microsoft Project as a scheduling tool is only good for more advanced full-time project managers. I think one of the more significant investments to me that Microsoft made came in the 2010 release was actually to start to provide a level of web-based scheduling, so ability to manage schedules within the browser as well as offline within Project Professional. And actually in the 2013 release took one step further and unified the desktop scheduling engine and the web-based scheduling engine, which is important because one of the common complaints we often hear when a company is using another PPM tool, but yet because Microsoft Project Professional Standard is the ubiquitous scheduling engine for many organizations, they often complain there isn't good enough integration between that PPM tool they're using and their scheduling tool that the project managers rely on. Of course, with a unified scheduling engine between Microsoft Project Online or Project Server and Project Professional, it doesn't matter where you're managing that schedule. Online, offline, everything is the same and overcomes that concern. So you now have the ability, whether it's in the web or offline, to build simple or, of course, the complex 1,000-line schedules that we think of when we think of detailed schedules for a project. But one thing that Microsoft did, again, this goes back 6 years ago, back to the release of Project Server 2010, was recognize the fact that there is the concept of accidental project managers, people that manage projects as part of their job but don't necessarily have a PMP certification or consider themselves to be a structured project manager and maybe default to other solutions like Excel or SharePoint to a degree or other tools, simple tools to manage work. So Microsoft wanted to make sure it was far easier for these accidental project managers to leverage the scheduling capabilities, whether it's online or in Project Professional. So the way you can manage or build a schedule in Excel, you can now do that in Project Professional. There's something called manually scheduled tasks, which simply switches off a lot of the scheduling logic behind the scenes that often made certain assumptions that would change someone's plan and leave them slightly confused. So you can have manually scheduled or automatically scheduled tasks, which gives you the ability to plan projects like you would do in Excel and switch on the automatic engine when you want. And that can be done in Professional or in Project Server or Project Online too. So we looked at the first myth. Second myth, it lacks project and portfolio governance capabilities. So how does this myth become or get propagated? Again, I think there's an underlying fact here that because Microsoft Project started in '85, did start as a scheduling tool for project managers, and then Project Central and Project Server started to come into existence in the early 2000s. Everyone believes the Microsoft PPM solution to be more execution orientated in its capabilities, the ability to more plan and execute a project, and may not give or caters to capabilities across the full life cycle: demand management, initiation, portfolio selection, beyond the life, benefits realization, and other facts. But the fact is, it does. And another reason is that earlier versions before Project Server 2010, did not actually include a workflow engine. And even when Microsoft, by integrating with SharePoint in the 2010 release of Project Server, provided the SharePoint Workflow Foundation as a workflow engine for Project Server 2010, you still needed a developer to build the business logic and rules that existed between the workflow stages that were defined. So again, people got that perception that there was no drag and drop, easy build workflow capabilities in the tool. So, the fact is really that Project Online and Project Server caters to the entire life cycle of a project or program, cradle to grave. We're going to focus more on the governance capabilities here, but also all the information that pertains across that life cycle. So Microsoft, since integrating with the SharePoint Workflow Foundation in 2010, has continued to invest in its workflow capabilities. Now, as UMT360 is actually a company that over the years has provided additional technology that extends the Microsoft Project Platform, back in 2010, we actually used to ship a workflow designer that provided drag and drop and easy workflow definition, which didn't mean you wouldn't need a developer. But we actually switched off that capability once Microsoft released Project Server 2013, because now it fully leverages SharePoint Designer or Visio as an interface to allow non-technical folks to build and manage workflows across the life. So no need now for a developer to hook up the business logic and rules. The workflow is key. As you can see in this graphic here, it can span the end-to-end life of the project. You can have different workflows for managing different types of projects, different workflows to manage different processes. It is truly flexible. Well, the thing I really like about it is the ability at each stage in the project's life, so each workflow stage, to ensure that the right information is captured. So you can govern the completion of certain information, attributes, financial information, resource information, strategic impact information, whatever it may be. And of course, the strong workflow engine predicated on the SharePoint platform gives you all the ability to manage workflow notifications, approvals, branching, even providing level of audit capabilities too. So let's take a look at myth 3, and I think we're actually going to have a demo snippet at the end of this one. So myth 3, it lacks true top-down portfolio management capabilities. So where did this one come from? Again, you know, I apologize for keep saying this, but I think it stems from the fact that whenever you think of Microsoft projects, you think of it more about the plan, manage portion of the life cycle, the execution portion of the life cycle, and maybe not giving a stronger focus on the upfront portions of a project's life, create and select, demand management, and so forth. So many PMOs and other folks using project have looked for other solutions to deal with demand management, analysis, or other capabilities. Simply don't believe it has the demand management capabilities, optimization, capacity planning, resource management capabilities that they need. So why is this? Now, in terms of debunking this myth, we can go back almost a decade ago. I have had the privilege of working in the UMT family since the very early 2000s, and back then, you know, the UMT really came onto the scene and was recognized for its ability to deliver portfolio management best practices. And from those best practices, built a toolset, UMT Portfolio Manager, that really found a home for itself in the world of project management. Back then, in the early 2000s, Gartner was really focused on project management being an execution discipline, so project resource management, delivering projects on time, within budget. And then everyone said, hold on, look, we need to start focusing on, you know, are we working on the right projects before we execute them effectively? So selecting the right projects. So we'd come up with a methodology back then of aligning investment decisions with the business strategy of the organization. And like I say, found a natural home for itself within the world of project management as it existed in those times. Back in the early 2000s, I think maybe 2002, 2003, you know, Gartner evaluated the project management space, and there was no mention of portfolio management. There was 9 or so capabilities they listed in the concept of project and resource management, and the 9th and maybe the least important was integration services, and within integration services somewhere was the idea of portfolio management. Now, roll the clock on a couple of years, portfolio management as a discipline, Gartner's reporting it being actually a top imperative, one of the top 3 imperatives of a CIO. So suddenly, portfolio management exploded onto the scene. So of course, Gartner starts reporting saying, look, PPM tools need to be able to execute projects. They need to be able to do the investment due diligence on projects too. So started to evaluate sort of 2 sides, 2 important and complementary sides of project and portfolio management. So what you see here is an old Gartner Magic Quadrant from 2005, placing the Microsoft EPM stack in the Challenger quadrant, and UMT, a provider of portfolio management capabilities that integrated with Project Server, as a visionary. And that resulted in 2006, Microsoft announcing the acquisition of the UMT Portfolio Manager. And Steve Ballmer said at that acquisition here, UMT will help us meet customers' needs for deep portfolio management capabilities, and you can read the rest. Now roll the clock on again. Having joined Microsoft, having integrated the top-down portfolio management capabilities, which then became rebranded, known as the Office Project Portfolio Server, with Project Server, they had a tool set that delivered on both sides of the equation, and that resulted in Microsoft, in Gartner, positioning them as a leader in the 2007 Magic Quadrant. So going back to that myth, does Project Server have, or Project Online, have world-class portfolio management capabilities? The answer is yes. It's had it in its arsenal since 2006. Now what happened in 2010 was there was 2 servers, as I say, the Project Portfolio Server and Project Server. Microsoft made the investment decision to rebuild all the top-down portfolio management capabilities it provided from UMT on top of Project Server. So one PPM solution, the Microsoft PPM solution, that gives you the ability, of course, to execute projects effectively, but the ability to define and prioritize strategy, the ability to build comprehensive business cases, the ability to prioritize CREST and run optimization analysis and look at capacity planning analysis. So rather than me talk through that, maybe we just pause for a quick demo snippet. So if I do so, I'm just going to bring up the solution here. We're looking here at Microsoft Project Server in this instance. And if you look down on the left-hand nav here, you see the out-of-the-box capabilities in terms of strategy, driver definition, driver prioritization, portfolio analysis. So the first thing you have the ability to do here, and I'm going to move through this pretty quickly, is define a business driver library. So enter a set of actual, measurable, and unique business drivers. Okay. Obviously, there's a methodology to define business strategy, give it a name, a description. If it's measurable, it should have a KPI. So use that KPI to define key impact statements that will be used to help assess the project's contribution against each one of these business drivers. So what's considered extreme, strong, moderate, low, none. Okay. So the ability to define and communicate business strategy. Okay, great. One of the most overlooked aspects in PPM, in my opinion, is the ability to objectively prioritize that strategy and use those priorities as a way of ensuring that the projects are prioritized correctly. So the solution includes what's called a pairwise comparison. It's part of the AHP methodology, Analytical Hierarchy Process methodology. And this pairwise assessment gives you the ability to compare the importance of things with each other. So it's applied here to strategy. So expand its markets and segments. We're going to simply ask a question here. Is it more or less important than improved customer satisfaction and the other business drivers that you see here? And you have a scale from extremely more important down to extremely less important. So just imagine getting the stakeholders into a room or even doing this individually with each key exec to figure out their driver priorities and stepping through this exercise and having an open discussion in terms of why, in this case, improved customer sat is more or less important than improved employee satisfaction and so on. So I'll fast forward to the end result of that. The end result of that is a normalized score for the business driver priorities. Now there's two reasons you want this. The first is because I now have a relative score to assess the importance of each business driver. My top business driver with 33% of the weighting is 10 or 11 times more important than my bottom business driver. Because also organizations want to look at how well I'm aligning my investment with my strategy. I now have an objective scale to assess that. If I had $100 to invest in this strategy and I wanted to ensure total alignment, I'd stick $33 on the top business driver, $3 on the bottom business driver. So driver definition, the very powerful facilitation tool here of helping executives to objectively prioritize strategy and drive consensus for that strategy to help in the decisioning process is certainly key. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but if we go open up Project Center here and open up a project innovation management framework that's currently in the early stages of its life cycle, you can see it's in the define stage here, where we expect a high-level business case to be created. We can now start to see information that can be gathered around that request, whether it's high-level details, cost-benefit information, scoring metrics like strategic impact. So going in now and assessing actually the project's contribution against one or more of the business drivers that we just prioritized. So I'm not going to go any deeper into this, but again, just wanted to showcase the fact that you now have full demand management capabilities, going again beyond just capturing schedule and resource information for the project. So if we go back now to the portfolio analysis, we're going to bring those two things together. We're going to bring the business strategy prioritized in with the demand being captured across the organization. And I'm going to launch this portfolio analysis. So many times folks aren't using this capability, which again, in my opinion, maybe we're biased because this is the tool set that we built originally, is still world-class in its ability to help you optimize a portfolio. And there's two steps here: the ability to optimize from a cost constraint perspective and the ability to look at maximizing resource utilization. So what we see here is the concept of the efficient frontier. and simply show me here that if I'm going to execute all these projects, which is my baseline, it's going to cost me $13 million, and I'm going to get 100% of the value from that portfolio. So I can run what-if analysis. So I can come in here now and say, okay, I don't have $13 million. I have, let's do that again, $10 million, and recalculate that scenario. A linear optimization algorithm will kick in, recommend projects be included or excluded based on maximizing the value score. Here we have 91% of the available value. And I can save that into the solution as a 10 mil scenario and click OK. Next, I can further constrain the scenario and say, okay, I only have 8 mil. Let's recalculate which projects should I be able to do now while maximizing the value score. So I'm getting 83% for $8 million, and this is the point I hit the efficient frontier. These two projects moved out. So I can save that as an 8 mil scenario. Now you can start to override the algorithm and say, hold on, this is a pet project of my boss or a compliance initiative, so I'm going to force it. I'm going to force it in. I haven't changed the cost constraint, just going to recalculate that scenario, and the tool will look for the maximum value while forcing in this project and allow you to very quickly communicate the trade-offs, that decision, which is going to be losing these three projects, making things very easy. And of course, we're obeying here inter-project dependencies and other things. Save that into the solution. So next, you can sort of compare these scenarios side by side for overall communication. Now, I'm not actually going to go into the resource constraint analysis or capacity planning analysis because I don't think we're going to have time for that today. But you also have the ability to then take this portfolio through and look at how that selected list of projects will impact the resource capacity and how best to resequence projects to better utilize available resources. But again, just a quick example there of some of the integrated portfolio management capabilities that are resident in Project Online and Project Server. So let's go back to the slides themselves. So poll question, are you utilizing Microsoft's top-down portfolio management capabilities? So obviously this is a question to you, those of you that we're using Microsoft Project. I'm using demand management, portfolio optimization, capacity planning, none of this time. Now, I'm not sure if this is multi-select, so please select one. So the reality is that pick the one you like the most. Because you'll be, if you're doing portfolio optimization, strong chance you're doing demand management as well. Okay, so we're going to close the poll, and we'll do some cross-referencing for our own benefit here, because what we're showing from the results is 10% demand management, very few using those cost constraint analysis I just showed, 11% using capacity planning, and 77% none of the above. Obviously, we'll look at the previous poll to see who were using projects and therefore are not utilizing those capabilities, and we can cross-reference based on versions to say, well, you're maybe underutilizing the platform that you already own. But that's common from what we see in the market. So myth 4, picking up the pace a little bit. It provides little to no reporting capabilities. This one baffles me a little bit. And I think about where this myth stems from. I think it's really because for a number of years, Microsoft Project didn't ship a whole bunch of reporting packs, out-of-the-box reports, other than just a few that you get as soon as you deploy Project Online or Project Server. Also, there's a belief that, to really start to leverage the reporting engine, you needed to be a bit of a reporting guru. And I think this was further offset by many other PPM vendors' sort of slick sales demos they invest a lot in, which include canned reporting capabilities that also sort of build on that perception that Microsoft's reporting capabilities are lacking. But let's look at dispelling that. I'm going to argue, I'm not even going to argue, this is an easy one. Business intelligence is a competitive differentiator for the Microsoft platform. Microsoft BI, which is a collection of products itself, is a recognized leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for Business Intelligence, Tableau, QuickView, Microsoft BI. You get that as part of Project Server and Project Online. You get a market-leading BI toolset within the PPM capabilities that Microsoft provides by virtue of the fact it's part of the Office 365 for Project Online, or because Project Server is built on SharePoint, you also get that as part of SharePoint. So this is quite incredible. You have literally a smorgasbord of reporting technologies available at your disposal, whether it's Excel services, SSRS, PowerView, Power BI. And again, this debunks the myth that you need to be a reporting guru. Of course, SSRS and other legacy reporting capabilities, which are still needed today, do require some technical understanding. But Excel services, Power BI, and others, these fit in the realm of self-service BI. I'm not a technical guy, and I can use them. I'll maybe even show you in a second. Yeah, and now, Microsoft and the Microsoft PPM Partner Network are providing a lot more reporting packs that extend that platform. So again, let's jump into a quick demo snippet. So bringing up the tool here. So there are a lot of reports that you can leverage, or leveraging traditional tools like SQL reporting services and many other tools to sort of bring things to life. So looking at some of the example reports here, I could have an investment planning dashboard that is simply showing me what total budget I have available, which projects are, how much is in flight, what's my remaining budget, and aggregating the cost of all the pipeline initiatives, right? I can see demand across all my different departments here, and I can drill down to learn more about those competing initiatives, prioritize from different dimensions, whether it's strategic yield, how it impacts the strategy, prioritized by financial metrics, whatever it may be, and I could start to see a lot of information, even going far as being, okay, what's the impact on the capacity in my organization? So what's going to be the impact of this portfolio on the different skill sets I have in the organization? This is all coming from Microsoft BI. In this case, these reports are built using SQL reporting services. So we can run down the list here, see where we draw the line in terms of projects included or excluded based on this budget constraint, and then drill down to that same project I was showing you some moments ago. So full drill down capabilities to be able to see and learn more about that particular project request. Okay, so this is more of the traditional reporting that I think folks have been used to for some time. Excel services, PowerView, and others provide a lot more flexibility. But what I want to show you is Power BI. Power BI is relatively new in the grand scheme of things, and this is an example of a content pack that Microsoft provides around Power BI. And so the ability here to be able to see where your projects are around the world, bubble charts, of course a whole list of graphics, start to be able to just show me red projects or whatever you need to do based on the dashboards that have been defined here. But again, to me this is not necessarily earth-shattering. Maybe we want to go one step further and look at some of the other dashboards. Now again, go back to that myth is you need to be more of a reporting guru. You can now use natural language search, and this is where it gets pretty cool. So I can come in here, I'm looking at a simple sort of project dashboard here, and I could show me something like number of active risks. So there's 17 risks, but what have I seen by owner? So I can start just typing through natural language search what I want to see, and I start building charts. I see all the owners by that, and I can say, okay, well, I don't like that bar chart. I want to look at it in a pie chart, and start to build out based on natural language search, and now actually pin it to my dashboard, right? So I'm actually going to change that because I don't like that report. I'm going to say, what's the total work underway? All right, 90,000 by project. You know, bar charts are so passé, so I want to see one of these new tree things. There are. Oh, it's a tree chart. That's cool, right? So let's pin that to my to my dashboard. Let's go back and take a look at that. There it is, sitting in my dashboard. As easy as that. So as many people know me, UMT360, I'm not the most technical guy, and there I am. I'm building a dashboard in minutes. All right, so let's back to the slides themselves. So, myth 5, it is difficult to configure. Where did that one come from? Well, I think generally due to a lack of tool expertise or knowledge that can result in suboptimal implementation. Maybe the fact that compared to some other PPM vendors, Microsoft over the years has not necessarily shipped verticalized solutions based on certain best practices. Maybe. But as with all these myths to date, I'm going to say the opposite is true. It's actually a very flexible solution and can be tailored to meet anyone's requirements. In itself, that can be a problem because that means you need a level of understanding. But like any Microsoft solution, the bar is pretty low in terms of the administration capabilities. It's very, very easy. This screenshot just simply shows how to add new fields onto one of the forms that I showed you as part of the business case. We looked at the workflow capabilities. Again, no need to have a developer. It's easy to build out workflows, many workflows that span the life cycle, ensuring that you can meet different vertical scenarios or project management methodologies, whether it be PMI, be it Prince2, whatever you're focused on. I think it's also fair to say that any PPM tool, no matter which tool, is prone to bad implementations. And those implementations are less about the tool's ability to meet unique configurations and more about the organization's ability to land that process change, that change management or adoption that needs to occur to make any new technology or new solution important. And there are also now a lot more pre-packaged templates and solutions, whether it comes from Microsoft or the extended Microsoft partner ecosystem, companies like UMT360 and others, that provide these pre-packaged starters to get you going up and running quicker in a vertical solution of your choosing. So on to the last myth, and this will be the shortest of them all. The Microsoft project does not provide a SAS solution. In fact, I haven't even provided any other supporting slides here because I don't think there's even need to. No, I think the main reason, or two maybe reasons why often people don't think the Microsoft project has a SAS-based solution, which is Project Online, which is part of the Office 365 family of products, goes back to the same reason why often people don't even know that project servers are there, because everyone thinks the Microsoft project is a scheduling system. The only difference here, I think, with the SAS offering is that there is a magic quadrant released by Gartner specifically zeroing in on PPM providers that offer SAS solutions, and Microsoft Project Online is not in there to date. Why? Because Microsoft released Project Online in 2013, and that quadrant requires 4 years in production, even though Microsoft's had a PPM solution in production since 2000, probably one of the first to market. The Project Online, only hit the streets in around 2013, so to hit that 4 years of having online available, a multi-tenant environment available, it should appear in that magic quadrant next year. But again, all the capabilities that I've touched on today, and we touched on just a very small subset, are available in Project Online, which is integrated with Office 365, as well as, if you're still adhering to on-prem, which many people are, as well as available for on-premise installation and deployment too. So let's wrap up. So what are the key takeaways? Hopefully some of those myths resonated with you. Maybe you were even subscribing to those myths. So hopefully we're able to show you that some of these common myths are exactly that, and no more real. than Elvis or the Loch Ness Monster, or even Bigfoot, I think I put in this slide. If you're considering, which some of you are on this call, using the Microsoft PPM platform, so you're using another PPM tool, but you're considering using the Microsoft PPM platform, or even looking at a new PPM solution, don't get caught up with these myths. Look at disproving these myths yourself, because again, a lot of these myths are based on ignorance and not doing the due diligence to disprove them. So, and quite honestly, if you're looking at new PPM solutions today and you have an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, it behooves you to do that anyway, because there's a good chance you may already have Project Online, Project Server licenses on your EA. If you're using Microsoft PPM and you're thinking, it just doesn't do what I want it to do, I need to go and rip and replace, then don't. At least check with companies like us, what can the solution do before you go for the expense of rip and replace, because the chances are it's not the tool, it's the process, or it's the knowledge around the tool. So, a bit of shameless marketing here. So I want to get started with us, and I didn't really give an overview of us. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, UMT360, we're a Gold Microsoft PPM partner. We're not only experts in optimizing and ensuring you get more value from Project Online, Project Server, and a lot of consulting best practices across 12 different verticals. We also provide technology products that extend SharePoint and the Microsoft PPM platform, Project Online, Project Server, to help you do more. Again, we sort of started off again where we left off with the previous acquisition, where Microsoft integrated the portfolio management capabilities that I showed you. So let's contact us if you need any more information, how to get started, how to maximize the value from your Microsoft platform investment. So with that, I want to thank you for your time today. We are going to pause for a Q&A now, 5 minutes still to run. So we'll pause, I'll look at the wizard and answer any questions if they arise. But please feel free to drop off if you have to go.